One, two, three, four.
Hey guys, welcome to the Outdoor Genetics Podcast, where we talk to anybody and everybody about any and everything outdoor related. Guys, Outdoor Genetics is proudly sponsored by Chum Bums. Chum Bums is an outdoor adventure community, is owned and operated by military vets that promotes conservative American values. You see, there's no paid advertisements on this social media platform, and they never own or sell any of your data. And of course, you can create all of your own private groups within the secured platform as well. Chum Bums is an outdoor adventure community where you can shop discounted products in the members-only outlet store, book an adventure with one of the many adventure partners, and of course, you can support the members' monthly charity raffles and raise money for the great causes, all within this Chum Bums app. Guys, we want to ask you to join us to help build this community, this adventure community together. Guys, this is an amazing platform. Make sure to go check them out. That's Chum Bums, CHUMBUMZ. All right. Hey, guys. Welcome to the Outdoor Genetics Podcast. And for today's podcast, I have Sean here with us from Northern Timber Outfitters. I said that correct, didn't I?
Yes, yep, you got that correct.
All right.
More than I do.
Well, I have a tendency of looking at something and thinking I'm reading it right and then totally just botching it. So
Yeah, I have the habit of anytime I have to get on film or on recording and say it, I mess it up every time. It's like, it's my own business name. Like, how do I mess this up? But you said that correctly.
Awesome. Well, good deal. Well, man, thank you for being on the podcast with us today. Man, why don't you tell our listeners a little bit about who you are, what you do? Man, just give us that whole rundown.
Yep, so I'm from Pennsylvania. I've grown up here. I was born and raised here. And back in like 2015, I got into duck hunting for the first time. And after I got into duck hunting and stuff, I went once and I was like, this is going to be my addiction for the rest of my life. And with that, I got into making calls and stuff, and I loved doing it so much. So then I started this business, and I called it Northern Timber Outfitters. And I had, tried to pick something that didn't sound like a guide service, but I picked this when I was in high school, and it stuck. So
there you go.
I just let it go, and now I build duck calls. I try and do volunteer conservation work, and I love meeting with people, talking with people like we're doing here on the podcast, meeting people out in the field, taking people out hunting and stuff. So it's funny when people ask me if I'm a guide service. They're like, oh, like you're a guide? And I'm like, no, I don't. If you want to go hunting with me, just come along. I'll tell you where to meet me, and we can go. So I love getting people out and in the field, whether they're new or whether they've been there. Just the community of it is just what I'm here for.
Yeah, absolutely. You know what? That's such a big thing. I've had several people tell me and say, hey man, you should guide for a living, you should do this. And don't get me wrong, it sounds like fun and what a dream, but man, I'm just like, man, if somebody wants to go with me, like, man, as long as we can make our schedules line up, I'm like, let's go.
Right. Yeah, and that's how I look at it too. My best friend, who actually was a person who I got into duck hunting with, he is actually currently in Montana at school to be a fly fishing guide. He is big into fly fishing, and he's fantastic at it. He should be a guide. Like, that's what he should do. With how much he loves it and how good he is at it, that's what he needs to do. But he was like, you should be a waterfowl guide. And I'm like, I don't want to be a waterfowl guide. I don't want to have to deal with all the overhead money you have to put out. You have to have decoys. You got to be able to put in that time to go scout. Like, it's not like I'm gonna be a guide and charge people and just hey, we've hunted this spot before this time of year and it's good, let's go there. Like, no, I have to put that time in to check those spots and stuff, and it's not something I want to do.
Well, there's a lot of work that goes into it.
And yeah, that's just a small part of it. There's so much that goes into it. It's like, I'd rather just be like, if you wanna come hunting, whether you have or haven't been, like, just come along, man. Like, this is what we do, and we might shoot birds, we might not. I can't promise you birds, but you're always welcome. And I'd rather do that than guide. It's a lot of fun.
Well, I've talked with several guides and got to meet some guides, and then obviously going on trips with a few different guides myself. All of them have said the same thing. It's like a labor of love. Yeah, don't get me wrong. They're in a business to make money, because when you go into business, that's what you go into business to do, is to make money.
Right.
But all of them start out with the same thing. Man, I love seeing the look on so-and-so's face. I love seeing the look on the kid's face or on their face whenever they get to shoot it for the first time, or they have all these birds coming in, or they're catching all these fish. Whatever the case may be, that most of the time, every time I've talked to them, it's all been the same thing. The look on their face is absolutely priceless. And so it does turn into like a labor of love.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And I mean, I totally get that. You have to make money in the business, but that's the thing. It's like there's enough guides out there, especially anymore today. I feel like guiding has become like a trend.
Sure.
Like it's a trend to go out and be a waterfowl guide. So that's where I see my own trend. And it's like, if you want to come out, I'll take you and I'll do the best I can to put you on some birds with us. But I don't want to get paid for it.
Right.
And
right.
Even when I go on guided hunts, I'll help put decoys out. Like, I'll help do all that. And it's just like, I'm just so used to doing it and stuff. And it's like, I don't care if I'm paying for it. Like, what? There's, just because I paid you, I can't help you put decoys out. We got 10 dozen decoys to put out. I'm not gonna sit here and let you guys do all that yourselves while I sit over there on the boat.
Right.
I'm here for the full experience.
That's right. That's right. And I think a lot of times people don't think about that. They do think of more of the, I'm out here paying to just shoot, basically, and there's a guide here in Oklahoma. He guides for multiple different fish species up in the northern part of Oklahoma. He's a fantastic guide. I've been with him several times, but getting to actually know him more on a personal level, on a friend level, anytime we go out with him now, I mean, I'm helping him set the reels. If he's got to pitch the anchor, well, I'm pitching the anchor. Or if he needs to do something and he needs the boat readjusted, well, I'm just going to go back there and adjust it for him. I kind of read him. I know what he needs in that time, and so him and I, we just bounce off of each other. Yeah, I'm still paying him, but then again, I'm kind of there for the whole experience, like you said. So I just jump in and do what I need to do to help, no matter what it is I need to do. I even help them clean the fish. I don't care if it's for us or not. I'll sit there and help clean fish. It don't bother me a lick.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, like, when we're going to, me and my buddies who, they help me run everything, and they go, when we hunt, we all hunt together and stuff, and they're my team that is behind me when I need that help. They're there for me.
Sure.
We're going to Arkansas. We're going to Stuttgart in December.
Mm-hmm.
And the guide we're going with, he had guided for guide service before, but this year he decided he wanted to start his own thing. So the guy who he was guiding with actually leased him some of his land, and he got some leases and stuff. And like we were talking, I was like, hey, listen, I want to bring our cameras down. We've been trying to get into filming more and stuff and filming our hunts more. I want to try and put some great footage together so that this way it's good for you and me.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, yeah, like that's great and stuff. Like I would love that. And I told him, I said, we'll even help you scout. Like I don't care, because that's something that I don't have to do too much around here. Where I am, just because we're limited on spots. Waterfowling isn't actually something that's very big directly where I'm from here in southeastern Pennsylvania. And it's kind of crazy that I've become so addicted to it, because it's just not what people do here. It's not like coastal Jersey. It's like, oh, that's a huge waterfowling, like the heritage and the history that's there with waterfowling and like coastal Jersey and stuff. It's not the same here with that, like in southeastern Pennsylvania. And but I love it, and I'll never stop.
The very first time I ever got wrapped up in hunting waterfowl was with a friend of mine. Actually, he's our co-host to the show. He offered to take me out one morning, and I think we only shot 2 or 3 ducks. But, we were on some property that he had never hunted before up on a pond. It was just like, hey, let's just pitch out right here. We'll see what we do. And we had a couple ducks come in. But from that time, from that moment, when those couple of ducks came in and we got to pull that trigger, I have been hooked ever since. And that was going on 6 years ago now. And it has been so much fun. It's just so social. I think that's a part of it that I love so much.
Yeah, no, it is, and it's just like, it's not like deer hunting and stuff. When you're deer hunting, you have to sit there, you gotta be quiet and all. There's just like this, you have to be still and everything. And with ducks, it's like you're sitting there in the blind, cutting up with your buddies. When birds come in, that excitement of, hey, there's birds, and everybody, trying to work birds and stuff, and just, it's not like anything else. You sit there and you have a good time. You can talk, you can joke around and stuff, and yeah, it's there's nothing else like it when it comes to any other type of hunting.
No, there's really no. You're absolutely right. I mean, waterfowl hunting is definitely a breed of its own, and there is now, from what I have seen. Now, granted, I consider myself young in the waterfowl hunting world because, like I said, I've only been doing waterfowl hunting for about the last 6 years of my life. But from what I have seen, I mean, there is, as much as it's social and everything, there is still a direct skill in understanding, your wind direction, where you need to set up, how you need to set up your decoys, where you need to be sitting, if you need to be sitting offset from your decoys or whatever. There's a lot that goes into waterfowl hunting.
Yeah, I will say, and I think pretty much every other, even seasoned waterfowl hunters will tell you, there isn't a day they go out there and they don't learn something new when it comes to these birds, because it never is the same ever.
Oh yeah, definitely. Well, and it's one of those things. I think it goes back to any form of hunting. I think anytime somebody goes out into the woods, they should be striving to learn something new. And the day that I don't learn something new when I go out, that is a failed day.
Oh yeah, yeah. I can agree with that for sure.
So, what made you really want to dive into the realm of making your own calls?
So, honestly, I wanted to do it. I was like, I feel like I can do this, and it was just something I wanted to do, and I started doing that. I think it was 2016, if I remember correctly. I'd have to look up when I made my logo again, because I did it all the same time. But
right.
I just wanted to do it, and I thought, man, like, this is awesome. Now, granted, when I started, it was me and a buddy, and we started, and I was like, I don't even know what we do for inserts. Like, I was like, I know how to make the barrels, but what do we do for inserts? And he's like, oh, well, here, we can get these at wholesale. And, they're Echo inserts, which a lot of kids who get into call making, that's, what they start out with. It's easy. They get the hand of shaping the barrel and stuff. But then after a while of doing that, him and I kind of parted ways, and I found out the hard way that just because I turned a barrel and put an Echo insert, it's not genuinely my own call. So
sure,
I went ahead, and I've never had one person like show me how, like, met up with somebody, and had them show me how to do anything when it comes to making calls. I've asked guys questions and gotten responses from them. But as far as the inserts and stuff go, I've figured it all out just through like visuals and stuff, looking at pictures of stuff and kind of figuring out, okay, like this has to be made this way. And now I make, I have my own inserts that I make, and I make the whole call from start to finish. And my biggest thing is it took me until the last like year and a half, 2 years to really find like what I wanted this company to be. And what I decided is I sat there and I look at stuff on social media, and I look at all these people that are newer waterfowlers, or they're not a good caller, they're just kind of getting into it. And then I look at the people in the comments who are just ripping them and trash talking them and being, just ignorant and rude and disrespectful. And I'm just like,
yeah.
On top of the fact that that's not who I am when it comes to duck hunting, I want to make, I want to make calls that are for these people that maybe aren't the best caller, or maybe they're new into the sport. Maybe they're like me, where they work a regular job, during the week, and they just like getting out and having fun on the weekends. And
Right.
that's when it was like, okay, this is what I want to do. I'm gonna make calls, and I've been working on some new stuff that I'm hoping to have out this fall as well, other than just duck calls. But I offer a lifetime warranty with all my calls. If it breaks, I don't care if you run it over with your truck. If you run that call over with your truck and it's broken, and you email me and say, hey man, like, my call is broke, I ran it over with your truck, I'll say, okay, cool. Do you want the same thing? Do you want something different, of equal value? Everything's warranted, because I know I have had calls fall apart that weren't ones I built in the middle of hunts, and I lose the pieces to them, and it's like, man, that was my favorite call that's now, I got to go buy a new one.
Right, to replace it, yeah.
Yeah, and it's just like, I don't want other people to have to deal with, like, man, now I got to buy a new call because this call came apart, and it's like, well, I don't want to buy another one of those because that one came apart on me. So now it's just like, you know what, on top of the fact I'm going to make sure that I try to my very hardest to make sure everything is with the utmost quality when it goes out my door. If for some reason down the road it breaks, I want to make sure that that's going to be taken care of for that customer. No questions asked. I don't, the dog chewed it, whatever. Your call's broken. You got it from me. There's a new one coming to you, right away. Prioritize, because that's just how I want things to be. I understand that not everybody has $1 million to spend every waterfowl season.
Sure.
And that's who I try and cater to, are those people.
Well, and I'll tell you another thing too, when it comes to that. I mean, that is what I would consider, that's what I would consider good customer service. I don't know how you want to say that. I don't know that that's the right word, but that's taking care of the people that are going to you for their product.
Yeah, and that's like what I strive to do. And you'll hear companies do it. Like, we like to take care of our customers. I've heard companies say it, not necessarily other call companies, but the companies say it, and it's like, what does that mean? Like, what does that really mean to you? What do I mean to you? And when people hear that, like, my calls are warranted, like, I wish that I could express to them, like, how much they as a customer mean to me. I'm a small business. I don't do this full time. I'm not, out here making a living, paying for a hunting trip every other week with, the money I make from my business.
Right.
I'm really doing this because this is what I want to do, and it's a dream of mine. And when they buy stuff from me, they are helping support my dream, even if I don't know them. I had a guy buy a call from me in California, and it was like, this guy doesn't even, I literally thought to myself, this guy doesn't even know it, but this guy right here is literally helping me achieve my dreams. And he's on the other side of the country, and he'll never know. But that is why I do things like warranty my calls like that, because not only do I want that customer to know that they are taken care of if something breaks, it's because they are helping me achieve and build, a dream of mine, and I want to be able to say thank you for that.
Right. Well, and I think coming from a consumer side, right? So coming from a consumer side, when I look at something like that, I'm like, hey, this is somebody that not only cares about their product, they also care about their customer. And there's something to be said about that, because you're right. A lot of times when you hear that from another company, no matter what they're making, it doesn't matter if it's calls or a mass-produced product, it doesn't matter. When they say we care about our clients or we care about our customers, okay, so does that mean we have to spend an extra, $60 on a protective plan? It's like, I've got all this camera equipment that I not only have insurance on, but I've also got warranty coverage that I had to pay extra for, So it's
right.
Like, how much do y'all really care? Oh, y'all are going to let me call y'all when I don't know how to set my camera up? Oh, okay. So going over and beyond like that means a lot.
Yeah, and I don't charge anything extra for the warranty, It's just, I'm A lot of it is I'm banking on, I know that I did my very best putting that call together, and a lot of what the warranty is for is I deal with a lot of wood calls. I do acrylic. It's not my favorite thing to do. Um, which I feel like a lot of guys like turning acrylic, like they like to see the cool stuff they can come up with, and the polished looks and all. It's
Sure.
just not my thing. I love a good old school looking wood call. But with wood, there's so many variables that go into the integrity of the wood, and
Mm-hmm.
it's not something I can control. I'm getting it from a supplier.
That's right.
So, yeah, sure, it may not break on my lathe, but who's to say in 2 years, after being run through two harsh winters, South Dakota or something,
Yeah.
it's not going to have a crack in it or just be worn out.
Sure.
That's where it's like, I want to make sure that even if it's something that was out of my control, the person's taken care of.
Right. Right. Well, and I'm going to tell you this too, and this is kind of really talking to our audience listeners here. There for about 6 months, 8 months maybe, I got into turning my own wood calls, both for duck and for turkey trumpet calls. And now, don't get me wrong, it is fun. I enjoyed it. I would get up there on the wood lathe and just start watching chips fly and all the different designs and I mean just everything that you can do. And I mean making it out of any and every piece of wood that I could get my hands on, whether I bought it or I cured it myself.
Yeah.
Doing everything I can just to get my hands on different pieces of wood, seeing what kind of creations I could come up with. It was fun for, like I said, about 6 to 8 months. And then I realized, okay, if I'm going to keep doing this, I'm going to have to develop a love and a passion for it, which I did not have for it, because there is an amount of time that you have to put into each call, the intricacy that goes into each call. It's defining. And so, I mean, for somebody to do that, they got to have a pure passion and a pure love to do it.
Yeah, oh, absolutely. I mean, you really do, and anymore today, it's really hard to, like, if you're gonna try and get into it and make a living out of it, you have to find something that sets you apart from everybody else, and it's very, very, very hard to do, because it's like there are so many people who make calls. Now, there's call makers, and I consider myself different from a call maker. I'm not out here to make a couple, calls that I'm charging $300 for a week. That's
Right.
not what I'm here for. I want this to be an outdoor product company that makes calls and eventually, other gear that's going to hold up in the field, and it's going to be priced fairly for everybody. And I want my company to also set the tone that, hey, we're a community and we need to to act like a community towards each other, because there's too much hatred towards other hunters in today's world.
Yeah.
That's where that was kind of like when I realized that's what I wanted to happen. That's going back to what I was saying about finding where I wanted this to go. When I kind of thought that up one night, I was like, okay, that's where I want this to go, and I'm going to make it work one way or the other. One way or the other, it's going to work. But you do have to have a true passion for doing it. And let me tell you something. Some days, my passion still does not override, my frustration when I'm down there and, I've blown the third acrylic insert up in a row or something.
Sure.
It takes a lot, but I'll tell you what, one of the things I love is turning custom stuff. I try and keep a stock of whatever's on my website, whether it's, turned or I have it and it's just got to get turned, because a lot of times with wood stuff, it doesn't take me long to turn it. Maybe an hour tops, and that's including tuning, depending on the wood. But with custom stuff, I just love it because I never know what that call is going to look like. But once I put it on that lathe and I start turning it, it's just like all of a sudden this shape comes together, and it's kind of just like, I can't even explain what it is. There's it's never the same. I don't think I've built one custom call that's the same as another.
Right.
just because it's like, I just start turning it and making, I start cutting, and then I'm just like, and all of a sudden my mind has unconsciously shaped this call, so to speak,
Mm-hmm.
and it looks great, and it's just like, I really enjoy it. I enjoy seeing how each one turns out every time, and a lot of times I'm just as surprised as, one of my buddies or the person receiving the call, because I was like, honestly, I really didn't have a plan for how this was going to look, like going into this. It's, unless obviously I've had people say like, hey, like I really dig the shape of this call that you did for so and so. Can you replicate it? And it's like, yeah, I can replicate it. But
Sure.
it's, my favorites are those ones where it's like nobody has any idea what the shape of this is going to be. And then it comes out and it's like, man, this thing looks awesome and everybody loves it. I'm happy with it. The customer's happy with it.
Yeah.
Those are my favorites to do.
Well, I've had a few custom things made for me over the years, and not just things. Excuse me, not just things that I've made for myself. One of the things that I had made for myself, or that I had made for me, was I had ordered a custom made rod through just a kind of like what you're doing, just a small time business owner. He doesn't do this. This isn't his big living. He still works his normal weekday job. But I ordered a custom snagging rod for spoonbill from him. Yeah,
Okay.
it cost me a pretty penny, but he asked me, he goes, how do you want this? And I told him, I said, dude, let your heart be your guide. I was like, I don't care what it looks like. I just want something custom. I just want it to look great. And I know you can do the job because I've seen your other work. So he started shooting ideas off of me. And then a couple of days later, he would send me another message. Hey, what if we tried this? Do you mind being my guinea pig for this? And I said, man, you just do it. And by the time he got done, that rod that I have now is an eye catcher. And no matter where I go, when I'm going spoonbill snagging or when I'm going catfish fishing, that rod, everybody, every single person that sees it, they go, where'd you get that from? That is incredible. That is amazing. It's custom made stuff is truly, it gets to be where it's a work of art.
Yeah. Yeah, and I really do love it, but it's not like what I necessarily want to be my main thing, because like I said, there's call makers, and there's me, and I'm kind of in a different category from like a maker, so to speak. That's kind of
Sure.
their hobby. It's like, no, like I would love it for this to one day be my living, but not because I want to hunt all the time. Now, don't get me wrong. Trust me, if I could hunt every day, I would. But,
Right.
it's just, I have a passion for the sport and for the community. But, yeah, like with custom stuff, like you were saying about, how eye-catching it is. I have my own stuff that I've built and put on my lanyard. And I've actually had people ask me, like, what is that? Like, I have a call. It's probably about 2.5 inches in total length, and it's a mallard call.
Mm-hmm.
And I just came up with it one day, like messing around, in the shop. I didn't have anything else to do, and I was doing this and doing that, and I ended up with this short little, like 2-inch long, maybe 3-inch long mallard call. And people ask me all the time, "What is that? Is that like, is that real?" And I'm like, "Yeah," and it rips too. It's a really, really nice running call. Um, but yeah, and the other thing, like you were saying with custom stuff, is the price. You're gonna pay a pretty penny for custom stuff, and
Oh, yeah.
one of the biggest things changes that I've had to make recently is I had to sit down and I had to come up with basically a rubric for charging for custom stuff, because I've started to get a lot more of it, and before it was kind of like, yeah, it'll be this much, and then I realized, I'm like, I got into doing some more of it, and I'm like, okay, you didn't charge enough on this, you didn't
Yep.
charge enough on this, like,
Kind of shot yourself in the foot.
yeah, and I was just like, all right, I got to figure something out, and so I got that figured out, and I remember, like, I built this calculator in Excel, which I was so proud of myself for doing in the first place, because as we talked before the show, I'm not technologically inclined. And I built this calculator, and basically all I got to do is I got to punch in how many hours I think the call is going to take, and then the price of the materials and stuff, and it tells me exactly what I need to charge the person. But the crazy thing about that is 2 days after I built that, I was on TikTok, and I'm scrolling through TikTok, and I see this guy's video, and he's wearing a Drake Performance fishing shirt, but you don't see him. I just caught the shirt reflection in the visor on his boat. And I just commented, I was like, "Hey, I like your shirt because I'm a field ambassador for Drake." So like, I was like, "Hey, I like your shirt," and he commented, he's like, "I didn't even know you could see that." He's like, "And by the way, I sent you a DM. I want to buy a call." So I
There it
said,
is.
"Okay, yeah," and I was just like, I couldn't believe that turned into a into that, but it did, and I was like, "All right, this is cool," like because I'm not good with social media, just like I'm not good with technology, but kind of finding those little deals here and there is pretty neat.
Right.
But I was talking to him, and he wanted a teal call and custom acrylic and stuff, and I got done pricing that call, and I mean, my heart sank when I saw like how much I was gonna have to charge this guy. I'm thinking, it's a teal call, like this guy is not gonna go for this. He's gonna think I'm crazy. He can go to the store and buy a good running teal call for $20.
Right.
And I sent him the price for that call, and he goes, "All right, let's do it." And I was just like, it was just such an awesome moment for me, not because it's like, yeah, like I got this guy for all this money for this call.
Right.
It's like I used the new calculator I built, and this guy understands. He is a person who understands what's going to go into making this custom call for him.
Right.
Because I've had people who don't understand it, and they're just like, "Wow, that's high." Now, generally, when people go and they look at how much I charge for calls on my website, like guys like, I don't know if you know Dylan Cade from DC Wood Supply and stuff, they look at my prices and they're like, "You don't charge nearly enough." And I'm like, "No, I charge just the right amount. I still make a couple bucks on it, and the person doesn't have to pay an arm and a leg for a call."
Right.
I build calls to go in the marsh, not on the shelf. That's what I do.
Right.
And
Well, and
they don't need to be shiny.
That's
and
with
sparkly.
any realm of work that somebody does, any kind of custom or any service, any small business owner. And I'm just going to take myself for instance. Like, I go film for clients and I make them commercials and promos and advertisements. And when I first got involved in this, I was thinking, how much would I be willing to pay somebody that's needing this done? And quite frankly, when I'm thinking, well, I really wouldn't want to pay no more than $300 for a promo, I wouldn't really want to pay no more than $300 for a good advertisement or commercial. I get to looking at other people on the market that are doing the same thing that I'm doing, and I'm looking like, why are they charging so much more? And I was actually listening to an inspirational speaker talking about knowing your value. And so kind of like you sat there and you made that calculator, you knew you had to been worth more than what you were doing, or something worth better, and you sat down and you took the time to figure it out. And when I sat down and I figured out, okay, what I am charging is it's not just competitive, it's actually stupid, because I was not only shooting myself in the foot, most of the time I was losing money because of traveling fees and my stay when I get down there, working down in like Dallas area, having to be there for 2 or 3 days at a time. I was shooting myself in the foot for only charging a few $100s, when some of these other guys, now granted more established, bigger name people, were sitting there going and offering the same thing that I was offering, but it was a minimum of $3,500.
Right.
And I was like, okay, I can't charge that. I wouldn't feel justified charging that. But as I begin to sit down and work this out and talk with other people in this realm that I'm in, and then talking with clients and past clients and things like that, and when somebody comes up to me and says, "Hey, how much do you charge?" you say, you're really not saying what your product is worth. You're saying what your time, your energy, your money, your love, your passion, that's what you're telling them the value of.
Right.
And that speaks volumes. And if somebody doesn't get it, it sucks, because that is a potential client. Yes, but in the same breath, if they don't get it and they think it's too much, well then, you know what? They weren't, they probably wouldn't have valued it anyways.
Oh yeah, yeah, and I totally agree with that. And like I understand too, like, hey, like somebody genuinely wants like a custom call done or something. It's like, maybe it's a young guy. I've had young people ask me, and it's just like, this is, people who are younger than me.
Sure.
I'm only 23, but people who are younger than me, and it's just like, that's not my price range, and that's okay. And and I'll even offer to work with them. I'm like, okay, well, like, listen, here's what I can do that is in your price range, or might be. That's a lot less expensive. I said, it's not as fancy, but you're still gonna get the same quality of a call from me. It's just
Right.
not it's not what you had originally thought. Now it's totally up to you what you want to do. It's just, I'm just extending the offer to work with you on this here.
Yeah.
And I've had some kids who are like, okay, yeah, let's do that. And some are just like, I just can't, and that's fine. I remember being that kid where it's like, man, I really want that, but it's like, oh yeah, I can't do that.
Really wish I could, but I
Yeah.
can't,
Yeah, I still have to do that.
Oh, yeah. I'm
trust
30
me,
years old, and I'm still doing that.
My girlfriend gets on me constantly about my impulsive buys, especially when it comes to hunting stuff, because it's like, I probably really didn't need whatever I just bought.
Sure.
But I still went and did it, and then it's like, yeah, she'll hear me a couple days later. Yeah, probably shouldn't have bought that.
And see, and for me, with my wife, it's getting another mount sent off. It's like, we hunt every year, and so of course, between hunting and fishing, I'm just like, I'm gonna accumulate the things that I consider trophies. You may not consider them a trophy, but because I consider them a trophy, I want to get them mounted. That's something that I want to look at on my wall for the rest of my life. So it's like, just this past year, we put in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We put in 5 animals to the taxidermist, and granted, I don't use the cheapest taxidermist around, but I do use the taxidermist that I use produces some amazing quality. He works his butt off on every single mount, and yeah, it costs me. I could go get it done cheaper somewhere else, but I'm also not going to get the quality that I'm getting. But that's for me in that a similar situation. For me, it's the mounts, because it's like right now I'm still paying on a taxidermy bill.
I have one going too as well, and other than my deer head that I had done, gosh, it was my first deer. It was years ago now. I spent like hundreds of dollars to have the deer head done. I have a running tab at my taxidermist now, and yes, I could get it done cheaper and faster. He is always booked out at least a year for stuff. It doesn't matter when you drop something off. He tells you it's never less than a year to get something back. And I like, when I shot my first buck, I got it back in like 3 months.
Oh,
and
wow.
And I dropped it off in October. To get it back that fast I was amazed.
Right.
But like, I'm on a Ducks Unlimited committee with him. We're on a committee board together. I know his son. I've hunted with his son before. Like, his son and I talk. And him and I talk. He gives me advice about running my business, because and tries to help me out, because he's been in my shoes before with his taxidermy business.
Right.
And I don't mind paying for the mount and paying him whatever to do that. And I mean, his stuff looks phenomenal. And it was kind of funny, because I told myself, all right, I'm gonna do one bird a year. We're gonna do one bird per year, and each year I'll get a different bird mounted, unless I shoot something and it has like a really special meaning to it, and it's like, no, this has to go to the taxidermist.
Sure.
And now this year I have 3 birds at the taxidermist. I shot a wood duck early season, and I got it mounted because it was a nice bird, and I regretted not getting the one I shot the year before mounted. So I was like, I want this one mounted. And the one I shot the year before was nicer, but I was like, this one's special. Like, I was out with my dad and my brother, which my dad's not big into waterfowl hunting, but he came out with me and my little brother. And it was the first duck I shot with the 1952 Browning A5 my boss gave me.
Oh,
I was
nice.
Like, I want it mounted. And it was a beautiful drake. And then we're down in Jersey, me and my buddy Corey, and his girlfriend's uncle. He took us down to Jersey, and we're hunting. And the first day we shot a bunch of buffleheads, and I have a story about buffleheads. My second year waterfowl hunting, I took a shot at a bufflehead from a kayak, and they were high. They were high up on my list as something I wanted to get because I think they're a very underappreciated bird.
Sure.
And the recoil of the gun spun me over in the middle of the river.
Oh no.
Now, our rivers my river here is not like, rivers in other parts of the country. It's not super wide and stuff, but it was still to the point where the water was 28 degrees and I couldn't stand. And I missed just barely. Like, the guys watched my pattern and he just like barely dipped out of my pattern.
Oh.
So after that, like, it was like I was on a mission.
Right.
I had to get a bufflehead, and when I do, it's getting mounted. Well, we went down to Jersey and we shot a 3-man limit of buffleheads in the first day. It's like, well, cool. I have 6 straight buffleheads that I could get mounted. But it's like, I was like, I came down here and I just shot 6 straight buffleheads. And you know what? We're coming down tomorrow. I could shoot 6 more Drake buffleheads tomorrow. I was like, let me see what happens when we come down tomorrow. I'm not going to get the first one mounted. And I was really happy that I didn't, because the next day we came down, I shot my #1 bucket list bird, which was green-winged teal.
Oh, nice.
Yep, it came in. We never saw it came in. We heard it land. I looked over. We kicked him up off the water, and I shot, and I went over, and I knew it was a teal, where it was a small, like a diver, but I didn't know that like it was a green-winged teal, and I didn't know it was going to be a fully plumed drake. And I was just like, this is awesome. I was like, I cannot believe this. The middle of December in coastal Jersey, my #1 bucket list bird that I have been, after for years is right here. So that is saved to go to the taxidermist, or it is at the taxidermist waiting to be mounted. And then I promised my youngest brother the first fully plumed drake bird he shot, we would get mounted, and he shot a drake bufflehead on New Year's Eve day this year. Oh,
nice.
So I had to pay up for that one, and now I have 3 birds at the taxidermist this year, as opposed to the one I wanted. Yeah, it can add up quickly, and I'm really interested to see how it adds up after I go to Arkansas and stuff this year, because it's like, I know that I'm going to shoot some stuff down there that I'm going to want to get mounted. Like a widgeon is one of the next birds on my list.
Oh man,
like
we get
my
so
bucket list.
Many widgeons over here where I'm at. I mean,
Yeah.
like full on. Now, I'm in southern Oklahoma. We get widgeons galore. I mean, I don't know why, but oh my goodness, there's a couple of ponds before I had lost the property that I used to hunt on. A couple years ago, there was a pond, one pond in particular. Every time you went on it, I kid you not, if you wanted to hunt it, if you wanted to pond jump it, whatever you wanted to do, it didn't matter. Every time you went out there, the only thing you were going to see, you might see a few gadwalls, but for the most part, you were going to see widgeons.
Yeah, my buddy said gadwalls are like Oklahoma mallards. I have a friend who lives just outside of Tulsa.
Yeah. Not
too far. And yeah, he said you guys get gadwalls, galore down there. Gadwalls and widgeon.
Yes, we do. Now, don't get me wrong. We get a lot of mallards and I guess I've never hunted in the right spot, because I hear people telling me all around, oh yeah, we got pintails like crazy, and I'm like, where? Because I've yet to see one.
Well, it's funny you say that, because I was at the taxidermist yesterday, and I was paying on my tab, and we were talking about different birds and stuff. And, I told him, I was like, we were talking, I participated in duck banding with my local game warden. I helped him out with banding ducks this year. Yeah, it was a awesome experience. I have some pictures up on social media if you go way back. I know there is one video that I put up It's just GoPro footage. We banded a black duck mallard hybrid.
Mm-hmm.
And I know there's some pictures too. I helped band turkeys up on social media, but I think
Oh, wow.
I don't think I have too many videos. I will next year. Um, but now I can't remember where I was going. Oh, I was talking about all the different birds that like I see. Like the first day I showed up to band ducks with him, we walked down to the, the trap, and there's like 2 widgeon and 3 gadwalls in this thing. And I'm there, and he's like, "Oh, we got some widgeon and gadwalls," and I'm there. I'm like, "What do you mean? Oh, we have some widgeon and gadwall?" I'm like a kid in a candy store freaking out. Like, we're 20 minutes from my house. Like, we're 20 minutes north of my house, and here are widgeon and gadwall. And then he's like, "Well, that's like the 16th widgeon I've caught this week or something." And I'm just like, I never see these birds, ever. So my taxidermist and I were talking about that. He said, it's funny, this past year on 2 separate occasions, I had one guy bring me 2 stud drake pintails that he shot just over here on the river. And I was like, I would tell you I don't believe you. I said, but honestly, I do after after going through that with the warden and seeing, shovelers. And, I mean, there were so many gadwalls.
Oh, yeah.
So many of them. I just couldn't believe it. I was like, I have never seen these birds in person. Like, I'd never actually seen them before. And to be 20 minutes north of where I live and where I hunt, it's like they're right here. They're right here. Now, obviously, I can't hunt where they were at, but
Well,
that's
sure.
probably a big part of why they're there. But it was
Right.
still crazy. And yeah, but the other reason too why I believed him when he said that he had a guy bring in 2 stud northern pintails is my first year duck hunting. My uncle, my best friend Zach, and we were out duck hunting, and in one day we shot 2 mallards, a drake northern pintail, a black duck, and we got a merganser. We shot a total of 6 birds between the 3 of us. And I mean, honestly, that was a pretty good day for us. It can be slow around here.
Sure.
But, we shot the pintail, and we should have been way more excited about it than we were. But it was only like our 3rd or 4th time really going out,
Mm-hmm.
and we didn't understand really the caliber of the situation that we have a northern pintail here with like a 6.5-inch sprig.
Mm-hmm.
And we took it home and plucked it and ate it. And every year when the picture pops up in my uncle's memories, he sends it to me, and I was like, "Do you still regret not mounting it?" And he's like, "Oh yeah." Oh yeah. He's like, "I'll never do it again." It was crazy. And it's just like I look back on that now, and I was just like, I still can't believe we did not understand like how great that was. And just to shoot like a pintail with this, I remember like we measured the sprig on it, and just to shoot one with that one that long is, it's not something that's super common. It's like, here we were, just a bunch of new guys out in the waterfowl world, not knowing what we had.
Right.
And yeah, I was like, I'm glad I didn't shoot it though. I don't have to live with that regret for the rest of my life. I didn't get it mounted.
Oh man, I'm telling you, that year that that Tim got me involved into hunting waterfowl, he ended up getting me. I mean, dude, I got addicted. Like, I started gathering, accumulating decoys. Now I've got so many that I have to keep them down in my storm cellar. Between goose decoys and duck decoys, I have to keep them down in our storm cellar. And we have a huge storm cellar, and it fills up the bottom of our storm cellar. It's ridiculous.
At one point, I had over 150 duck decoys, and I think that was just what I had in the storage unit. I just could not stop buying them. I kept finding these deals on Marketplace, and it's like, oh, like, this is a deal, this is a deal. And, my girlfriend was finally like, you don't need any more. Like, you don't need any more decoys. You don't even use them all when you go. You take like 24 with you, and you have all these decoys. You don't need any more decoys.
But my thing is like, hey, if a buddy calls me and says, hey, we're going hunting, we need a few dozen decoys. Oh, here, come get you a few dozen decoys, and then I've still got 5, 6, 7, 8, 9,000 decoys that I can use for myself.
That's it right there. That is my mentality. If somebody asks me, hey, can I borrow some decoys? It's here. I'll open the door up and you pick out what you want. And just make sure you bring it back. And even if you don't, I don't care because I have so many more.
That's it. Well, and I was kind of the same way. If you were putting up a deal on Facebook Marketplace, hey, here's a duffel bag full of them, or a decoy bag full of decoys. I didn't care if it was Dakota decoys. I didn't care if it was avian decoys. I didn't care what the brand was. I didn't care if it was green headgear. If it was decoys, I wanted it in my spread. Mm-hmm. And, it was kind of just a spontaneous buy here, a spontaneous buy there, and then I would hit up the pawn shops, and then I would go buy some new ones. And before I knew it, goose decoys and duck decoys, now they reside in my storm cellar.
Well, it's funny. I don't think I have any goose decoys. I had like a half a dozen shells at one point. I think I gave them all to my buddy who we hunt together all the time anyway, so I don't know why I didn't just keep them. But he buys all the goose decoys. I buy all the duck decoys.
Sure.
And his mother is ready to kill both of us because we keep bringing home. We're obsessed. Yes, and we love the Bigfoot decoys, and not necessarily like the Bigfoot brand. Like if they're that style decoy, and we find them for a deal, we will go buy them.
Right.
And he's got an A-frame set up in his basement that is stacked full, like they're spilling out the sides of the A-frame, and then he's got them on the shelves. Like he has literally basically commandeered an entire corner of his parents' basement for goose decoys. And it's like every time he brings them home, he has to figure out like a new way to get them in the house and make it look like they were already there, because his mother is she's going to kill him for this because he keeps taking all her basement space. But it's funny you said about you didn't really care about the brand of decoys. While I love buying decoys off Marketplace, I normally don't keep any decoys for more than a year. I run them one season, whether I bought them new or used. I will run them one season. I will sell them, and I really don't care what I get for them, And I mean, if some kid asked me if he could have some of them, I've been like, yeah, like, what do you want here? You want a dozen decoys? I'll give them to you. Like that's fine. I'd love to get you, see you get into the sport with them.
Right.
But I like to change what brand I use each year.
Oh, okay. Why is that?
And it's just, I want to try, hey, all right, I'm going to try these out. I want to try this brand out. I want to see how these are. And I have found there are some decoys that I don't like. I'll never buy again. I don't want to, I don't want to say names because I'm not here to bash any company. It's just there's, it's personal preference. I don't like them.
Right. And there's absolutely nothing wrong with that.
Right. And there's some decoys that I really love. Green headgear decoys. I have some that are fully flocked, and that's the one set of decoys I did not sell this year. I think I have a dozen of them, and I kept them. But yeah, other than that, I sold everything. I had Avian X, I had Tangle Free, I had everything. I sold all my decoys back in February, and yeah, I was totally fine with it. I don't feel any, man, I wish I wouldn't have sold them, because I know this year I'm gonna try something new out. I think this year I'm gonna try dive bomb decoys out.
There you go.
First of all, I know a lot of people, it's like the new thing, like, yo, dive bomb makes some great stuff. And two, I actually reached out to Dive Bomb on Instagram, and I was like, hey, listen, I love watching your guys' shows. I listen to your guys' podcasts. I was like, I'll just, you guys put on an awesome show. You're always trying new things, when you're in the field, to keep the viewer interested. It's not just the same old, hunt over and over and over again. And I was like, you guys just seem like some humble guys. I want to make some calls and give them to you. And part of that is like, I really do want them to have those calls, but at the same time, it's like I would just love to know, like, yeah, I made a call and I gave it to Dive Bomb, and these guys are like guys I look up to in the industry.
Sure.
And so, I was really looking through some of their decoys and stuff, and I kind of picked it as, I'm gonna try Dive Bomb decoys out this year, and I'm gonna see how I like their decoys. So this year I still got to do it, but I'm gonna order some Dive Bomb stuff from them, and I'm gonna try them out. And that's one thing where it's like I really need to start, like, I probably, for the sake of my business, should start doing YouTube reviews on that stuff.
Sure, absolutely, yeah.
Just because I don't put enough videos out as it is, and it would probably really benefit me if I did. But at the same time too, it's like sometimes I feel like there's just so much of that stuff out there,
Right.
And it's like I don't want to make it seem like maybe I'm favoriting somebody or I'm not, and so it's hard.
Well, I'm going to tell you
that type of thing.
It is, and I'm going to talk about one person in particular here. I actually had him recently on the show, or on our podcast, I should say. Trenton from Chest Thumper Outdoors.
Okay.
He came on the show, and his big thing is broadhead reviews. Now, granted, there's a lot of broadhead reviews out there, and most of the time, it's people shooting it into a brick, shooting it into, a tree. And I'm like, don't get me wrong, it's cool to see, but watching him do his broadhead reviews for archery hunting, and, he takes about it a whole nother way. So I think what you're saying, getting in there, just finding a new way to do it, a more insightful way, because quite frankly, there's a lot of times when I'm looking stuff up and I can't find the answer for it, or I can't find the person that has the right answer for me. I have to go and try it for myself, and I'm saying, oh, I wish I'd have known that from the beginning. I either A, would have done it sooner, or I wouldn't have done it at all. So that's the thing. Figure out the questions that you have, and then drive it home. Hit a home run with it, because that content is not only wanted but needed.
Yeah, I'm sure there's people that would, they want to know the same thing that I wanted to know before I bought something.
Yeah.
So, and like I'm an ambassador. I said I was an ambassador for Drake. I'm an ambassador for Mojo as well, and I've put some reviews out about some of their stuff. And I like their stuff. Some guys don't. Some guys don't like Mojo's stuff.
Sure.
The way I look at it as is Mojo's the #1 brand in the industry. They've been doing this for a long time.
Right.
They know what's up, and it's like, hey, I don't hold anything against you if you don't like them. That's up to you. It's personal personal preference. Just like me with my decoys. It's personal preference what I do and don't like. Mm-hmm. And I like their stuff, and I've told people straight up, like, this is one of the nice features about it. If, you're going to buy one, just, be aware of this. I had a guy comment on one of my TikToks of a review I did for them, and they were like, I wish they would just go back to the plug-in, charging style. Mm-hmm. And I told him, I said, well, actually what's nice about this is, I said, if you have a plug-in model and it dies in the field, you're done.
Right.
I said their new Elite Series decoys, they just take 4 AA batteries. It's a lot easier.
And you're ready to go.
Right. It's a lot easier to pack an extra pack of batteries than it is to pack a whole nother giant battery for the old style ones. And I was like, and this is great. And I told him, I said, the other thing I love about this is all the battery things are interchangeable. I was like, I got 1 million of them. They're just everywhere. I got extra ones from decoys that broke, or that I don't use or whatever. Like, the ones from my Dove can go in this decoy and stuff. Like, they're also interchangeable, and it's nice. And Mojo's kind of really moving in that direction, and I like that. And hey, if he wants the chargeable ones, that's fine. But I just feel like, hey, packing 4 more AA batteries in my pack of stuff is a lot easier than a whole nother, giant 6-volt battery.
Right. Well, it is. Yeah, definitely. But it goes back to what you said, to each their own.
Right. And he might not even have realized that, like, okay, wait a second, that is a lot nicer than, a rechargeable battery.
Right. Well, and another thing, talking about, like the idea of to each their own and what people think, maybe I'm diving off on in left field here. I don't know. But one thing that drives me crazy is when I'm talking with people, and then whether it be online or in person, and I hear either somebody or even them, if they want to come back and say, oh, well, if you're using this, that, or the other, like almost like a shame on you kind of feel, almost like putting you down. You know what I mean?
Where you're poor, or come on, you're not a real duck hunter. Trust me, that's one of those
Yeah.
things that it was like, I can't stand that, and honestly, I've gotten so busy. I used to get in there and I would tango with those guys and really rip into them for ripping somebody new,
Yeah.
or somebody who just, that's what their personal preference. They're looking for a reference for something, and maybe they have some ideas, but they want some feedback on what they're looking at. And these
Sure.
guys are in there, and they're just totally like trashing these people. And I can't stand that. And I wish I could get in there and get on some of those guys more about it, but I'm just too busy. And it's like I can't I can't do it. I can't do it
Right.
all, but I've had some fun getting in there. And I'm not like nasty. Like, I don't get in there and I don't act like a jerk and stoop to other people's levels. But
Sure.
I've gotten in there and be like, what's your problem? Not everybody's got $1,000,000 every duck season. There's nothing wrong if with that. Like I
Right.
said before. So yeah.
I think there gets to be a spot with this level of elitism that's coming out, and that's what I call it, elitism.
No, I call it the same thing. We're
I,
right on the same page with that.
it just gets so annoying. And now, okay, so like I'm gonna take like on my behalf, if somebody wants to come and do that to me, like I really don't care. It doesn't bother me because I'm not too worried about other people's opinions. I mean, for crying out loud, I post content online. If I was somebody that got their feelings hurt very easily, I would not be posting my stuff online, on YouTube, on Facebook, on different social media platforms. I'm asking to be a target, basically, is what I'm doing when I'm putting my content out there. So it's like, it
Oh,
doesn't
yeah.
hurt my feelings necessarily, but when I see Joe Schmo down the road who's struggling from paycheck to paycheck, and I've known him for years, and I know that he's got 3 kids at home, and he's working his butt off 60 hours a week to try to make ends meet, and he's got a wife that's staying at home to watch the kids and do everything that she can to make sure that when he comes home the house is clean and everything else, and they're working their butt off from sun up to sundown, and he wants to go hunting one evening, but you know what, all he's got is a little cheap set of pawn shop decoys. He's got a cheap call, he's got a cheap gun that his great great grandfather handed down from years ago, and he's got a cheap box of shells. And when I hear somebody that has the audacity to put him down, that's where it lights my fire.
Oh yeah, and I've been in that situation where my fire gets lit. Like, in that exact situation, I think I got kicked out of the group for arguing with the guy. I was in a group on Facebook, and this guy offered to give. I got kicked out of my state waterfowl group, like the big page, and I have no reason why. I can't get an answer from the people. It's like, I've never done anything that like breaks the rules. I've gotten in there and I've argued people on points like the one I'm about to talk about, but
Sure.
I don't break the rules. I don't want to get kicked out of the group. It's, I'm in here for the same passion as everybody else.
Right.
But there was a guy offering to give decoys away
Mm-hmm.
to a young kid who wanted to get into the sport, or to anybody who couldn't afford them and wanted to hunt waterfowl. He would give them to you. If you just, you couldn't afford them, but you want to get into waterfowl hunting, that's fine. And some guy got in there and was trying to say that if you can't afford decoys and stuff like that, you shouldn't be waterfowl hunting. And I was just like, okay, so what happens when somebody is working their butt off, okay,
Mm-hmm.
like you were saying, and supporting their family, and they're doing all that, and they want to go? What? They can't afford to go spend, the $80 that some of these decoys cost for half a dozen decoys
Right.
to go waterfowl hunting?
Mm-hmm.
So they shouldn't be allowed to go. Well, they should budget their money better. I said, listen, it doesn't matter. Okay, they could be budgeting their money as best they can. They could be living paycheck to paycheck. Maybe it's just not in their budget to go spend, you know, $60 on a hunting license, and then, boxes of shells cost $20 a piece for cheap shells.
Mm-hmm.
And then you factor in all this. It's like, it's expensive to do this, and so what? They shouldn't be allowed to enjoy it. He's like, well, if it's too expensive for them, why are they even doing it in the first place? Because everybody should be able to do it.
Yep. Well, and it's all big and bad on their end, like, oh, I'm the greatest of the greatest, right? It's all this elitism until the tables are turned, until they get to the spot where they're in the hard times and they can't afford it, but they're going to go, but they're not going to preach against themselves.
Right. Exactly. Exactly. They're not. And I feel like there's been such a huge, class division in waterfowl hunting anymore.
That's a really good way to put it, a class division.
Created. Yeah, no, and that's exactly how I look at it. It's like there is your elite, upper class, and then there's, your middle class and your lower class, and it's just like, I'd rather hang out down here with these lower class guys than and anybody else. Because,
Dang right.
Because they're just going out to have fun. Some of you guys, it's like, if I don't have a pile pick to post at the end of the day,
oh yeah,
something, it's like, come on now, seriously, I can go shoot one bird, or I can go shoot, we can go shoot an 8-man limit. I'll still have the same amount of fun.
I've literally gone out with one guy in particular who he only had 8 or 9 decoys, and I offered to bring decoys. He's like, nah, we don't need them. Okay, so he only had 8 or 9 decoys. They were old style decoys, but then they weren't even weighted. I mean, they were that old, real old style.
Yeah.
The paint was faded on them, but then he had Clorox bleach bottles that he painted black.
Hey, I've heard some amazing stories about what people do with those.
Man, we killed ducks. Killed ducks.
Yeah.
And it's like, come on. It's like, I mean, don't get me wrong. Having all these things is nice, but I'm like, you know what? You don't have to have them to have a good time. And you know what? And I'm not bashing anybody that does want these things and does have these things. Oh, no,
absolutely not.
I mean, I'm fortunate enough to be able to have a lot of these things, but there is in no way, shape, form, or fashion that I'm going to look at somebody that's getting it done, even though it may not be the means that I would do it. They're getting it done. Kudos to that person. And like I said, when I went with them, we shot ducks over Clorox bleach bottles. That he spray painted.
Yeah,
black.
I've heard. Yeah, I read an article. It might have been from DU, but they used to use white rags. I think down in Texas for snow geese and stuff.
Yep.
And they were just it worked. It works. And at some point too, all this fancy stuff is gonna not work anymore, and it might be those guys with painted bleach bottles that are back to killing out killing these other guys when in the marsh and stuff.
Yeah.
When it comes to birds, just because it's like they're so used to all this new gear. It's like spinning wings. They only work for so long, and birds get used to them, and they know what's up.
Right.
They adapt and overcome, to our gear probably faster than we can get new stuff out. But like you said, I don't rag on anybody. If you want to go spend, $60,000 on a boat and trailer and setup, and you have that money to play around with,
that's
hey,
awesome.
That's fine. Go ahead, man, because let me tell you something, your boat looks freaking awesome, and I wish I had one too. But I don't, if I don't have one, that's fine. I'm not I'm not upset about that. It's when you take the fact that you have a $60,000 duck boat and you put somebody else who doesn't have that down, and you make them feel like less of a person because they don't have $100,000 a year to spend on duck boats and camo and decoys and bismuth shells and all this stuff, and you make them feel like less of a person, less of a human being for just wanting to be out there and enjoy their passion for waterfowl hunting. That is when I have a problem, and I I'm never afraid to voice my opinion on somebody being a jerk
Right.
who is like that. It's not fair. It's not
No, it's
fair to the
really
people
not.
who just want to have fun.
Yeah, it's really not, and it's like I'm going to take my wife, for instance. My wife, the first time that she ever went duck hunting, we did not kill a single thing. And I know depending
Right.
on who you talk to and where you go, pond hopping or pond jumping, whatever you want to call it, it isn't, it's frowned upon depending on who you talk to. For us, I'm like,
Yeah,
well,
it's the same with driving deer.
yeah, exactly, exactly. For us, we primarily throughout the year, we rely on what we kill, catch, and grow for
Mhm.
food. Like don't get me wrong. If we're out in the town, if we're out in town or something, we might stop and get something to eat. But when we're at home, we're eating what we kill, catch, and grow. So it's like I've still got some ducks left in my freezer from this past season that we're gonna eat. And deer and turkey and fish and even snakes and other things that we eat throughout the year. So it's like when we go duck hunting, if we didn't have a successful trip, on all of our limits, we would drive around to a few of the ponds, we'd pond hop it and get our limit. And I'll never forget one day we popped over this dam, and I have never seen so many ducks in my life on such a small pond that you could fit 3 or 4 pickups in, like side by side, scrunched together. A tiny mud hole,
Yep.
and it was packed front to back with mallards, nothing
Oh,
but
I believe it.
mallards. And when we stepped over that hill, I looked over at my wife, and don't get me wrong, I mean, yeah, I shot a couple times. I didn't want to shoot all 3 times because I did not want to shoot past my limit.
Yeah.
And I look over at her not having shot anything yet that morning. I look over at her, and her eyes are as big as baseballs. So much that she just can't believe what she's seeing. And I call it like Rambo. This was still that first year that we had gotten involved, that I had gotten involved in hunting, or duck hunting rather, I should say. And I look over at her. Her eyes are huge, and she's got that gun at her hip, and she's pointing it out just like Rambo, just hip shooting these things. Boom, boom, boom.
Yeah.
And I mean, I was laughing my butt off just because she was so excited. She just couldn't believe it.
Yeah.
It totally blew her mind. She couldn't believe what she was seeing. And sure enough, it was me and a few buddies. And when all the ducks finally flew off, we started, picking up ducks and counting and everything. And it ended up perfect. We ended up being, I think we were 2 shy of our limits. And of like, I think we had 4 or 5 of us there that day. But anyways, but her expressions, being new to it all and not having any experience in the waterfowl realm, her expressions were just incredible, just an amazing thing. And for anybody to put somebody down that is having that much fun and enjoying it and staying legal and doing what they're supposed to do and filling their freezer on top of that,
Mm-hmm.
for anybody to put those people down, I don't have the heart to put people down like that. I couldn't make myself do it.
Yeah, I mean it's sad when you see, just young people, or I mean even adults. Like I see adults just asking for help or advice or something. So I'll dive into a quick story here.
Go for it.
Couple weeks ago, I'm an admin for a group. It's called Outdoor Adventures, Possibilities for All Abilities, and it's a group designed to help get people who have a disability or maybe a handicap outdoors. But outside of this group, in hardcore waterfowler on Facebook, a young man had put up a video, and I say young man, he's older than me, asking how his shouldering form looked. And he was just took a video of him shouldering his gun.
Mm-hmm.
And I saw the little laughing emoji in the bottom left corner of the thing there, and I immediately went, I was like, alright, like, let's see what's going on in this comment section. And, a lot of stupid comments and stuff. And then I saw one comment. And he was overweight. And I saw this comment, and then right below it, I saw a comment from him. And the comment from the one guy said, maybe you should lay off, the junk food instead of worrying about this. And below that, he commented, the creator of the post commented, I guess I should mention I'm in a wheelchair, I'm handicapped. And that just set me off. I didn't respond to comment. Like, I was like, I'm too angry over this.
Yeah.
To even reply to the guy's comment about, laying off the junk food. Because this is a person with a handicap. Whether he stated that or not in the original post, he wasn't asking for, health and exercise tips. He was asking how his form looks shouldering his gun. And that's what you say. I went right to his profile. I sent him a friend request. I said, hey, listen, you're looking good, but let me make a little video that I want to show you a trick that works for me. And I ended up making this video just for him. And then I ended up sharing it in that group for people with disabilities, and I brought him into the group and stuff. And I said, listen, if you ever have any questions, ask him here. This is judgment free in here. Like, nobody's gonna judge you for it.
Right.
And I ended up, like, that kind of kicked off. I was like, I should make a YouTube series for my own channel, about shotgunning tips. And basically what it was is he just needed help with being comfortable shouldering his gun, and so he could be more proficient and stuff. And he was just asking how he looked. But
sure,
I just was appalled that is what people were saying to this guy in this group. And it's like, even after he said that he had a handicap and was in a wheelchair, they were saying that to him. It's like, are you serious? And it's like, I almost wish people like that, who have the audacity to say that to somebody else, like, could be banned from, like, they have to get a suspension for a year or two from buying a waterfowl license.
Right. Well,
like, I'm serious. Yeah. It's like, you should have to serve a suspension from waterfowl hunting because of your, absolute, pitiful disrespect to another person. That, like, something like that is just uncalled for.
Well, and here's the thing, and now, granted, I don't know you, and you don't know me, but it sounds like we were pretty much, from what you're saying, it sounds like we were pretty much raised the same. I was taught that if I want something, I'm going to go out and earn it, but that does not include me putting you down to make me look good. That doesn't include me stealing it, stealing somebody else's glory, stealing somebody else's happiness to make me look good. And it's like, I'm sorry, but there are people out there, and they're going to be hearing this, and we might catch a little bit of grief from this. But like I said,
I'm ready
personally,
for it.
I don't care. Yeah, exactly. Like, it doesn't bother me. But the truth of the matter is their parents were not good enough to teach them better. So part of it, I do blame the parents. But now that these people are grown, they should know better. And the fact that they're willing to steal other people's joy and happiness, it's not fair to those people. And, the outdoor industry as a whole, the elitism, it's not just in, the waterfowl. It's in deer hunting. It's in turkey hunting.
It's all across. It is all across. And it's sad because as hunters, these elitists, these people who think they're better than everybody else, they are actually slowly, they're a cancer, and they're killing the sport itself within itself. And I don't even think they realize the damage they are doing, because, everybody wants to sit there and say, oh, like, all these new guys in the marsh who don't know this, who don't know that. Listen, I've had people run right up on me before shooting light. And it's just like, hey, I'm here. You can either join us or, I don't think there's anybody up this way. Go ahead. Like, it's just communication and being friendly about it.
That's it.
Okay? If everybody's like that, there's not a problem. But they complain, oh, there's all these new people in the marsh. Hunting license sales are down nationwide. They are down.
Across the board.
Across the board. Okay? Across the board. And you know what? I think the biggest part of that is these people who think they're better than everybody else, and I think a good percentage of them too are people who think they know more than their state wildlife agency about what should happen because
Right.
they drive people away from the sport. It's like I don't want to go out in the woods and deer hunt because I'm on public land and it's before sunrise. I'm walking in the dark and hey, I bumped under somebody else's stand and they flicked their light on and I didn't know and I ended up sitting over here. It's like, dude, it's public land.
Right.
As long as they set up a safe distance from you, who cares if you can see them or not?
Right. Right. Well,
Like, I can't tell you how many times that we've done, like, we do deer drives. And I'm sorry to cut you off on this.
no,
one,
you're good. Go for it.
But we do deer drives. That's how my family has done it since before I was born. That's how everybody used to do it where I live. Okay? And obviously I'm in PA way. That's known as the PA way. But around here, like around my home, was how everybody did it for years. And people want to say now that should be illegal because there's people killing 5 deer on a drive. Listen, first of all, I've never shot more than 1 deer coming out on a drive. Okay? It's a lot more difficult than people think to shoot at them.
Right.
Yeah, but the other thing is, it's like, I have been on, deer drives. I have been sitting with and have a buddy who's 50 yards from me. And we both get deer.
Yep.
Why does it matter if in the dark somebody set up 200 yards from you, 150 yards from you? Why does it matter if they did it in the daylight? Because it really doesn't. It just makes you mad because you don't have your own piece of little private land and you're trying to claim that area as yours.
Sure.
And that's not right. Because guess what? You never know. He might shoot a deer, and then there might be another one with it that runs by you. You could be in the marsh, duck hunting, and there's guys that are 500 yards from you or 300 yards from you, and they flare birds off, and they see your spread, and they're like, you know what? We'll go there, and you don't even have to do any work.
Right. They're just going to come in anyways.
Right.
I mean, that's the thing. Now, okay, here's my deals. I do hunt public land, but I do not hunt public land exclusively. I do have private land that I hunt across the state of Oklahoma, but with that, I still do hunt public land. And what I don't understand is, back when I was younger, I remember going hunting with some of the older men in the community that deer hunted. I'm really the only one in my family that does any real hunting or fishing or anything like that, especially when I was younger. I was the only one in my family that did it. And
Right.
I remember going out to public lands and going with an older gentleman who would harvest a deer, or I would harvest a deer, or however, and we would go to the weigh station to weigh it in, to check it in. And there was the fun atmosphere. It was, hey, how'd y'all do this morning? Oh, we shot a spike. Hey, that's great. How'd y'all do this morning? Oh, we shot a doe. Let's see it. It didn't matter what you shot. If it was a 160-inch buck, if it was a spike or a doe, you had this camaraderie there that now we don't have because Oklahoma went to a mobile e-check to where now we don't have to see each other face to face. That camaraderie is gone, and now when we do run into each other on public land, it's like, hey, I'm hunting here, back off. And it's just like, it didn't used to be that way. I'm
And
sure
you
there
can be
was,
friendly
but-
about it.
Yeah, and that's the thing. I think that's where people forget that it's like, hey, if you walk in on me, I get it. You didn't say, oh, I know where this person's going, I'm going to go sit right on top of him.
Right.
Especially when you're walking in the dark. I mean, I don't know how everybody else does it, but for me, unless it's just a pitch black night, I have no light on me whatsoever when I'm going deer hunting. Yeah. And typically, when somebody's already set up, they don't have a light just turned on waiting to start the day either. And so it's like, I don't know that I'm right on top of them, and it's not like I'm trying to mess up their hunt. They're not trying to mess up my hunt. We just want to do our own thing. But we don't want, in the same breath, I don't want to bother them.
Right.
But in the same breath, I'm not looking to start a fight either. It's like some of these people are looking for it.
Yeah. And it's funny you say about the way stations and stuff and the camaraderie that was there. My dad always talks about how back in the day when he was, 16 and stuff and they were hunting deer, at the end of the day, because we still process our deer 100% ourselves. And that's how everybody used to do it. Now, my area has become lots of subdivisions, developments and stuff, and it is
Sure.
not like it used to be. We actually have had the police called on us a couple times for legally hunting in a state park because people don't realize that we're allowed to do that there. So,
Right.
of course, the police have to come out and just check to make sure that everything is okay. But
Right.
my dad always talks about every year after opening day of gun season, before anybody started butchering, everybody would drive around because all the deer would be hanging in the front yard.
Yep.
And everybody would look around and drive around and see what everybody else got. And it's also kind of funny that you talked about, like, hey, you got a doe, let's see it.
Mm-hmm.
This year was the first year that my brother and my cousin Maylee could carry their own weapons for hunting season. They both turned 12 or 13. I forget what the age is anymore. I think it's 12. You have to be to get like a license and carry your own weapons separate from your guardian.
Right.
So we typically are in Massachusetts till Sunday after Thanksgiving, but in Pennsylvania they moved the opening day of gun season from the Monday after to the Saturday before, which is, boy, is that a big argument in PA. So what we ended up doing is we all took off work Monday still, and we come home Saturday, and Sunday we go deer hunt because we can hunt that Sunday, and then we hunt Monday. And it was awesome because Corey and I went and we sat somewhere else separate from everybody. Everybody else, my dad and my brother and my grandfather and Maylee and my uncle, who is Maylee's father, and his son, who's a Menard youth, they all went out hunting together. And Maylee shot a deer, and the just pandemonium that was going on, like, oh, like, that's awesome, and this person shot a deer. My dad shot a deer, and it was a yearling, but he shot a deer. That was the important thing, because my family will eat all, if say we have 6 deer in the freezer, it will all be gone by July. We already ate all the venison from last year. Okay.
Yeah.
Now, I didn't get 1 deer last year, and I don't care. Like I said, we do a lot of drives and stuff. I was a walker on so many of the drives this year because my little brother and my little cousins were there, and I remember being their age. I did not want to walk because it was like the excitement when a deer comes through and you can see him coming, you see him coming and you're getting ready and your blood starts pumping, and that excitement that goes on there. I remember being that, and it was so awesome to see that, where they're getting pumped up and excited. They're helping drag deer. They stayed up late to help butcher deer. I remember because I was, until my younger brother, my middle brother, who's 4 years younger than me, was born, I was the only grandchild. And after my middle brother was born 4 years after me, we were the only 2 grandchildren. So when I was young, I used to fake being sick to get out of school because I knew my dad and the guys were out hunting. And I would go out and I'd tag along and I'd help, I'd stay up and be butchering and stuff. And it was just so cool. It's like they just love it so much. They love it, Last year, not this past season, the season before, we did a ton of scouting, and we located 2 turkeys, which turkeys are getting pretty scarce around here. But we located 2 turkeys within like 45 minutes of shooting time, and within 10 minutes of each other, in 2 separate parts of the park that we can hunt. They both shot a turkey. We both get back to the same house, or the house at the same time. My dad and my uncle were like ecstatic because, both of their, kids who just, became of age to hunt and stuff got turkeys, and they're ecstatic, and we're taking pictures, and everybody was just, and they loved it. And it's like, just because they're kids doesn't mean it's exclusive to kids. That can be for everybody. Sharing that excitement for everybody. And we actually were out on a drive this year, and there was a young kid and his girlfriend, and they asked if they could join in, and we said sure. And don't you know, this basket rack 6 comes running out, and he shoots this buck. He he asks us to go hunting all the time. He asks us what we're doing all the time. Because we've taken him goose hunting with us now. He shot that deer, and he was still shaking with excitement, like 30, 45 minutes later, because he was just so pumped up, and he was so thankful. And it was just like, like I said, I didn't shoot one deer last year. I shot a deer, I never found it. I shot a doe and never found it.
Mm-hmm.
But I didn't bring one deer home last year, and it was all worth it. I was a walker when he shot that deer, and to come out and see him shaking, I believe it was his first buck. It might have even been his first deer. To see him there, it was his first deer, because I remember my dad has kept a tally of how many people have gotten their first deer with us.
Right.
And you just see that excitement, and he's there, and he's shaking, and my grandfather's there, and he's teaching him how to gut the deer and stuff. And it was just like, it was worth it, all the walking I did this year for that. And it's the same thing with duck hunting. It's worth whatever work I have to put in to see the smile on somebody's face when
Absolutely.
they just have a good time. And I think a big part that is taken away from all that is, I'm sure somebody will tell me I sound like a boomer, but there's too much social media, and there's not enough let's go down to the sporting shop afterwards and talk about how our morning went in the marsh,
Oh, yeah.
And your picture is not hung up on the wall. Like, that is the honest truth. There is not enough of that anymore. These little sports shops are dying.
Mm-hmm.
Everything's social media, pile pics,
Yep.
Look at my guide service. There's too many guides. We have too many waterfowl guides. I'll say that, and I'll take whatever comes with it. Whatever happened to just lets a bunch of us go out and go hunting and have a good time, whether it be ducks or deer or whatever. Like, just go have fun.
Yep. Well, and that's what it's all about. Getting to see somebody shoot their first deer. I've got to witness that myself several times. And there is nothing, in my opinion, there is nothing that is more satisfying than watching somebody harvest their first deer. My wife, she's a crier. Now, with that, I guess I am too. Whenever I shoot an animal, I do get a little emotional. There is a part of me, because there is a weight of killing an animal, sure, But, I'm still excited. There's a lot of mixed emotions that go along with it. But my wife being a crier, when I watched her shoot, actually, all three of her deer, all three of her bucks, I should say, and her doe for that matter, or all of her does. But every time she cries, and it's like, what? That's what it's all about. She's not crying because she's sad, but all the mixed emotions, the whole experience in itself. Going out, whether we're deer hunting, duck hunting, turkey hunting, pig hunting, it doesn't matter. The fact that we've put our time, our money, our energy, our blood, and our sweat and our tears into it, and somebody gets out there and they get to experience it. It is incredible to watch that moment happen.
Yeah, I mean, it's just, like a lot of people, they really rag on, and even us, they rag on us for doing drives. I'm sure after hearing this podcast, somebody's probably going to have something to say to me, and somebody might look at my company a little different, like, because we do that. Listen, I still sit for deer. Me and Corey are doing a managed food plot this year for, deer, to try and get some nice, hunting videos on film and stuff. And just because, hey, we like doing that too. It is a ton of fun when there's a group of people together and we're having fun. We're not saying that your way is wrong in doing it. Don't tell us that our way of doing it is wrong.
Right.
We're not being unsafe. We've never once even come close to having any sort of accident. It's like we're not doing anything wrong. In the state handbook for the rules, it tells you it gives you tips for how to safely put on a drive. So don't sit there and try and tell me that our way of our family heritage of how we do this is wrong.
Yeah.
Because you know what? I guarantee you, we had 1,000 times more fun in those 2 first days of shotgun season than you had in your entire deer season. And I'm not
Absolutely.
saying that to be rude.
No.
I'm saying that because if you were looking at me like, how can you drive deer, then you obviously don't understand what the real purpose of being out there is.
Right, absolutely. And I've said it for years. And as long as somebody is being legal, then I don't necessarily care how it's done, as long as it's
Right.
legal. When it's not legal, that's when we're starting to talk in a different ball game, but nevertheless, considering all legality aside, just assuming what everybody is doing is legal, if they're having fun, especially with the new people, getting new people involved, especially with the new people, if it's legal, let them have their fun, because quite frankly, it's not my place to tell you how to spend your money. It's not my place to tell you how to spend your tag. It's not
Right.
my place to tell you what is and is not the right way to hunt. Because if
Right.
it gets your heart pumping, if it makes you excited, that right there is what it is all about.
Right, and believe me, aside from things being legal too, say we were being unsafe, and you have a problem with that. We put you in danger, or we put, a family member of yours in danger, and there was some factor of it that was unsafe. I understand if you want to speak out then.
Sure.
But, other than that, just let us do things how we do them. We're within the law of doing it, and we're having a ton of fun.
And that's it. And 99.99% of the time, we're not going on to their post and telling them how to do their stuff. So,
Right.
And my other way of thinking is, and now here's where we might catch some flack. And it's funny that we kind of got off on this little bit of a tangent, because I actually posted a video podcast about this the other day, talking about elitism. But we might catch a little bit of flack for this. But, if these people are so good, and they are so awesome, and they are just all this and that, and there is nobody that can compare to them, then why would they even want to take the time to mess with us lessers? I'm not trying to call you a lesser, but us,
Right. No.
What they would classify us. Why would they even
I'm cool
waste
down
their
here with
time?
the lessers.
That's me,
Yeah.
But it's like,
Yeah.
why would they even want to waste their time with us lessers?
And in my opinion, it's like, I feel like they're on the same level. We all are. We're all on the same level.
Mhm.
The problem is that they just, their ego is different.
That's it.
And that's what it is. Like I said before, if you have a $60,000 boat, as long as you're not a jerk to me or somebody else, that is great, man. Your boat is awesome. I will tell you how sweet your boat is, and I will sound like a 5-year-old that's talking to, the guy at the fire station with the fire truck, and how excited they are. Like, that's an
Right.
awesome truck. I'm going to say the same thing about your boat, and it doesn't matter if I'm 23 or if it's 20 years from now and I'm 53 or 43, and, you pull up in your $60,000 duck boat or bass boat. I'm going to sit there and look at your boat and tell you how awesome it is.
Yeah.
Even if I don't have one, or if I do have one.
Right.
And as long as you're not a jerk to me, I have respect for you. It's when you make me feel, or make others feel, like less of a human being for just wanting to enjoy the sport.
Absolutely.
And that's really all there is to it.
That is. Well, man, we are coming up on around pretty close to 100 minutes on this podcast. I don't want to take any more of your evening up. I appreciate you. Real quick, before we hop off of here, go ahead and let everybody know how they can reach out and get a hold of you if they would like a call or multiple calls made.
Yeah, so if anybody wants to get a hold of me, you can get a hold of me on Instagram or Facebook. You can message my personal Facebook. Look me up, Sean Trump, and that's going to be SHAUNTRUMP. You can get a hold of me on Instagram at North T Outfitters, or you can reach out to me through email, northtOutfitters@gmail.com. The best way to probably get a hold of me would be Facebook or Instagram, and if it can be more than just a call. If anybody wants to, just hang out and talk, or wants to be friends, wants to get together and hunt, you guys can feel free to reach out to me, and we'll set something up, or I'll hook you guys up with a call or calls, whatever it may be.
Awesome, man. That sounds good. Guys, thanks for checking out this podcast for Outdoor Genetics. Make sure to hit that subscribe button, turn on that bell notification so that you will be notified when we upload more content in the future. Until next time, we will be seeing y'all later.